story time again. So there's a weird one. I'm in this band Tennis Pro, and we've been a band since, I think, 02 or 03. Still going, and we can get into our more recent comeback some other time, but feel free to follow Tennis Pro Rocks on YouTube, and that'll give you our newest stuff that we're doing. But we did this movie called Big in Japan, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's pretty funny, and it was really fun to make, and it scrappy indie, but like has nice cinematography done by John Jeffcoat. So yeah, Tennis Pro, Big in Japan. It's on Amazon. Check it out. So when we released that movie, we debuted it at South by Southwest, and then we went there and played when the movie screened, and then we ended up doing this in multiple cities like Sayulita, Mexico, and Victoria, BC, and also the Bahamas was one of them. And when we were in the Bahamas, there were multiple screenings in different parts of the Bahamas, and some of them were on more remote islands. And one of them was the island of Eleutheria, which is the island that Lenny Kravitz owns property on, and he has a song called Eleutheria. It's like spelled differently, but it's about that place, and at least to some degree. And it's actually one of my favorite songs, so it was really trippy for me to be there. So we took this plane, which is the same plane flight, basically, that Aaliyah took and crashed and died. It was that same flight. We took that, but we had good weather and we weren't overloaded with gear and stuff, so we were fine. And then we took that to a different island, and then we took this crazy ferry boat that was through super choppy water. And we all were feeling like pretty green and by the time we got there, and that was pretty crazy. It was pretty wild. And we pull into the Eleutheria, and it's just the most beautiful paradise island that you could think of. And we've already done a couple shows in the Bahamas, and our thing was like we brought our guitars and our drumsticks, and we would just get on whatever gear was there, and they would play the movie, and then we would play our set. So we get to Eleutheria, to this swanky resort that is going to premiere our movie, and then we're going to play. And we get there, and there's like a PA speaker, and that's like it. And we're like, oh, so there's not a like guitar amp or any kind of drum kit or anything for us to do. This will be interesting. And we had already done some shows where we had plugged into the PA and not had amps, but we had at least had drums, you know, and we're scrappy like that, so we always make it work. So we were like, okay, all we need is a drum kit here. So the hotel people start to call around to see, you know, and our fixers, producers, start to call around and try to get a drum kit for us somewhere on this island. And one of the young guys that worked at the hotel said, oh, there's a drum kit at my church a few blocks away. Let me see what we can do. So meanwhile, the movie starts. Like, it's scheduled in this film festival to screen. We don't have a drum kit. We don't know what's going on. And we're kind of behind the audience, so we can kind of potentially set up or whatever, but because they're not looking at us, they're looking at the screen, which is the other direction. And so we're kind of set up. We're plugged into the PA, like no sound check, no nothing, but here we are. We're going to do this. And this kid is like, okay, well, the pastor of my church says that we can't use the drum kit because it's like a strict church or whatever. I mean, I think, you know, could be a little stricter situation there with you know, churches and stuff like that. So he's like, no, we can't use it. And we're like, oh, that sucks. And what are we going to do? And the kid's like, but I have the key to the building. So meanwhile, we're on this resort with these golf carts that they have driven us, because it's a little bit, these paths are pretty squirrely. You can't just drive into them. In fact, on this island, pretty much there's no cars. There's pretty much only golf carts on this island. That's how kind of awesome and remote it is. Everybody just has golf carts, and that's good enough. It's a small island. You don't need much. And so they bring us a golf cart, and this kid tells us where the church is. He like gives us directions because he's working. He's like bartending or something, and gives us the key. And Sean, my drummer, me and Sean got in a golf cart and left Dave there to try to like cover our tracks. And I've never been so fast in a golf cart in my life. Sean was ripping down these little dirt paths and then got onto these cobbly roads and was just ripping. And somehow we found the church like right away. Meanwhile, our movie's playing. Like we're supposed to play after it's not a super long movie. It's like an hour or something. And so we're just ripping to this church. We use the key. We grab the drums that we need, lock it back up, rip back to the resort where they're playing our movie. And it's like kind of towards the end, like it's on the closing scene. It's on the closing song, right before the credits. And we just like throw the drums into place. And I mean, it is like the last credit of the movie is rolling by, and we're finally like set up in this crazy panic. But somehow here we are ready to go, and the movie ends and we play our set, and it's scrappy and awesome and fun, and we have the best time ever, and people loved it, and it turned out great. And and I forgot to mention that I think one of Paul McCartney's daughters was on the island at the same time or something. It's like it's a cool island. Anyway, so it was this beautiful view and everything. I think the sand is pink on that island. It's just unbelievable. It was a crazy experience. And I guess the takeaway from this would be you can always make it work. And I'm so glad we weren't like prima donnas and we're like, oh, well, you didn't find a drum kit. Because at first we were like, well, you guys were kind of supposed to know what we were doing. And we thought you would somewhere it got lost, and had we been prima donnas about it, it would have been so stupid and made us look dumb. And so just by being scrappy about it and going for it and hitting the gas and stealing the drum set and using it, and then of course we returned it right away and stuff, and no one knew, I guess. It's just such a weird thing. I've never had to steal a drum kit to play a show before, but also like, you don't need a sound check. You don't need all your special fancy gear. Of course I like my fancy gear, but the music is in the people playing it, not in whatever gear you're using. So anyway, hopefully that brightens your day a little bit.